Japan Station is made possible in part by Patreon support. If you would like to make sure that I can keep bringing you more content like this, then head on over to japankyo.com/Patreon and sign up for as little as $1 a month.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Japan Station.
Welcome to Japan Station, a production of japankyo.com. This is the podcast where we help you understand everything you should know about Japan. I'm your host, content creator, founder of japankyo.com, and lifelong Japan enthusiast, Tony R. Vega. Just a couple quick things. Of course, if you're into anime and Dragon Ball, check out my YouTube channel, The Anime Linguist. I'm uploading videos there quite regularly, usually 1 to 2 or 3 times a week. So go check it out. Just look it up, The Anime Linguist. There will be a link down below in the show notes as well. And if you have any ideas for future shows, suggestions for guests, or just some nice feedback that you want to send me, you can email me, mail@japankyo.com. Always happy to get emails. Of course, I can't promise that I'll do everything people tell me to do or request that I do. I have had to say no to 1 or 2 emails in the past, but generally speaking, you guys send me some awesome suggestions. So send them over if you can think of anything. Always happy to get some emails. Now, let's get into the episode. So today I'm going to be talking to somebody who runs a business in Tokyo. This is a really fun episode. You're going to get to learn about what it's like running a business in Tokyo for the past few years. Specifically, the business we're talking about is Pintology Craft Beer and Whisky in Tokyo. So my guest today is Kyle Broyles, one of the owners of Pintology Craft Beer and Whisky, or Pintology Tokyo for short. That's the Instagram as well. This is a really, really nice craft beer bar. Kyle is a really nice guy. He's a friend of mine. So it's always wonderful to have him on the show. He's been on before. And this is his second time talking about Pintology Tokyo. The last time was right when it opened. So this is an update. And he tells us what it's been like running a business, how it's been growing. Is it going good? It's going kind of good. So I'm really happy for him. And I really, really do recommend that you check this place out, especially if you're into craft beer and whiskey. If you're not, maybe not so much. Maybe check out one of their special events, which he does tell us about. So keep an eye out for that. But again, I think that this is a really enjoyable conversation, regardless of whether you're into craft beer or not. But he also does have some nice craft beer recommendations if you're interested in Japanese craft beer. All right, so let's get into it. Here is my conversation with Kyle Broyles of Pintology Craft Beer and Whisky. Kyle, welcome back. It's great to talk to you again.
Great to be back. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen you in my trips to Japan. I always make sure to stop by Pintology. And it's always great to see you, even if it is, while you're like busy serving drinks. But
yeah, one of these days when you come back, we'll have to meet somewhere where I'm not also working so we can hang out.
Yeah, somebody else will serve you so that you can, do other stuff.
Oh, yeah. What a dream.
Yeah. So can you, for anybody, it's been quite a while since we last talked on the show, but for anybody that hasn't listened to the previous episode you were on, can you remind us or tell them, like what you do in Japan and what you've been up to, especially for the last few years?
Yeah. The last few years, it's been a crazy time, a lot of changing things around. And of course, my wife and I started our bar, Pintology, in Sasazuka. So it's a craft beer and whiskey bar. And, I like to think of it as the drinks are like the vehicle that maintains the space where people can meet each other and hang out and talk and make connections and just be people together, right? So running a bar, you might think, a bar is a dirty place where people are getting wasted all the time. I don't think Pintology is really that vibe. It's more of a place where people meet and hang out. So we've been doing that for coming up on 3 years. In July, it will be 3 years. And on top of that, I also teach at Temple University in Japan. So I teach media production and motion graphics, which is more of my background. Before going into the service industry and opening a bar, I did video related things, and we've worked on some video projects together. And yeah, I think that's in a nutshell the past few years.
Yeah. And I got to know you through your podcast that you did, and then we started doing stuff together and all that.
Right.
So
I
yeah,
forgot to mention that.
yeah. And I mean, is it still up? Like, I mean, I know you're not producing stuff, but is it up?
I I think I stopped paying for the hosting,
I
so it might show up on Spotify.
yeah.
I don't know how or where it's coming from, but if you search Tokyo Explosion on Spotify, it is there, and I think it will play,
Okay.
but it's
Well,
kind of a mystery. It's just out there somehow.
it's just as Spotify has hosted it for you because they liked it so much.
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you, Spotify. You did something right for a change.
Yeah, yeah. But of course, you get no money for you. Um,
Yeah, of course not.
yeah. So, but yeah. And so it's been interesting. Like I don't think I've ever connected to somebody through a podcast, and now it's like I think I feel comfortable calling you a friend, and it's always good to see you
Of
when
course.
I yeah when I go back to Tokyo. But just going off of what you said, like it can be really hard to find a place where you can easily gather some people, maybe not like 100 people, but in your bar you can get a few tens of people there,
Yeah.
and have a good
Yeah.
time, and there's some standing room only kind of situations, but
Oh
you
yeah.
can all have a good time. And I've been doing these walks across Japan where I'll walk like 400 500 kilometers, and at the end of that I go to Tokyo and I just let people know, like, I'm going to be there, let's get together. And some nice people come, and we all have a good time. And it's always nice to know, like, okay, at the very least I could go to Kyle's, I could go to Pintology and just let people know I'm
Yeah.
going to be there. And it's a really nice environment. Like you said, it's not like dirty place or anything like that. It's like you can go hang out, men, women, it's totally open. And there's some good beer, and there's some non-alcoholic beverages there. There's some food too.
Yes. Yes. Um, you reminded me recently, somebody said something that I thought was really nice and well put and just made me feel good about the kind of space that we've made.
Yeah.
A Japanese woman, a friend of a friend, said she likes Pintology because everybody there, whether they're foreigners or if they're a CEO of a startup or whoever they are, Japanese, everybody speaks to each other and treats each other as equals. So
Mm,
there's not this sort of hierarchical structure in conversation or people being concerned about if they're paying appropriate respect to their senpais or what have you.
hmm
And I like that. And sometimes it's nice to just kind of step away from situations that might feel that way and just come to a place where we treat everybody as equals and we expect everybody who comes in to respect each other and treat each other as equals. So um, I don't know. I never thought about that as being something unique or special about a bar, but
hmm
from her perspective, she said it felt refreshing in that way.
That's nice. I sometimes I will hear from, whether it's on TV or in person, like from, for example, certain Japanese females where they might feel uncomfortable
Yes.
even going into certain like ramen shops or certain
Yeah.
types of like restaurants, not just a bar, right? Because that's kind of like a place for guys. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable going there by myself. Like if they went with a
Yeah.
guy or with like a group of people, they'd be okay, but they would feel uncomfortable doing that. But at least I'm not a Japanese female as far as I can tell. But like
Yeah.
when I've been to Pintology, I didn't feel like it was like, ooh, this is like for guys. Like, no, it's like everybody can just
Yeah.
go, and it's totally fine. It's welcoming.
And I think it helps my wife as a Japanese woman behind the bar.
Hmm
And if she spots something like that going on where women are being treated differently or asked rude questions about them being alone in a bar, she's very good at kind of setting the tone and making sure, you know, things are going how they should.
Yeah. So in terms of clientele, like how have you seen it? Has it changed? Like is it more Japanese, more foreigners? Has it changed since you opened? Like what can you tell us about that?
Yeah. I mean, we kind of have a few sort of rotating groups of regulars, people who live nearby,
Hmm
who, let's say, come about once every 2 weeks or so. We would consider that the core group of regulars. And it's about half and half, half Japanese people and a half just from anywhere else, Western countries, other Asian countries.
hmm
And I think the biggest change since we opened was of course, when you first open a bar, you get a lot of your friends and former coworkers and family and stuff just coming in to kind of support you, which was great. But I was always afraid, well, when we're no longer new and novel and those people disappear, what's going to happen? And luckily now that core group of people who come, every 2 weeks or sometimes more, it's almost all people who we met through Pintology. So not it's not just all of our friends who we knew from before, and I think that's a good sign that we're building our group of our network or quote unquote community around the
Mhm.
neighborhood, which I think is essential for a bar.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be that group of people that go like, oh, I'm just going to stop by after work.
Yeah.
I assume there's also the group of people that find it, online. They might look for a craft beer bar in that area and they just happen to come in. Um, like in terms of, so just for somebody that maybe is interested in running a business in let's just say Tokyo area, let's not even say Japan in general, but Tokyo area, like, have you done anything in terms of like advertising or marketing, or have you found that it's pretty much been efficient enough for you, like in this organic kind of approach where just, having that presence there was kind of enough in a sense?
Yeah, I think so. My wife and I, we both, since we met, we've both enjoyed craft beer and we know a bit about the craft beer scene. And people who are into craft beer, like me, when I go to another town or another place, one of the first things I'll search is craft beer just to see what's around. And specifically craft beer bars, there's a sort of a vibe or an energy that if you go to Germany or if you go to the US or if you go to Tokyo or if you go to Sendai, you kind of have some understanding of what to expect in a beer bar. So I think that has been really helpful, just being one stop from Shinjuku Station on the KO line. That covers a lot of areas where people just search craft beer, and our shop will show up on Google Maps near the top, depending on where they are.
Mhm.
And we picked Sasazuka because we used to live in Shimokitazawa. They already have quite a few beer bars, so we wanted to kind of plant our flag close by, but far enough away to where we're catching neighborhoods that maybe don't have a spot like this. So just naturally from that, we lucked out into finding a good spot in Sasazuka. And I think we've never paid for advertising. Um, most of the people who find us, I think they just search craft beer in their area, and that's how they find us. Or they walk by. So the road we're on is one of the sort of connections between Sasazuka Station and if people live more in the Kitazawa direction or Ohara direction, so out on the Setagaya side. Our bar, just for people maybe not as familiar with Tokyo, we're right on the edge of Shibuya-ku and Setagaya-ku.
Mhm.
So some people might commute on the Keio line in Sasazuka, but they live on the Setagaya side, and most of those people will walk by our bar. So that's
Mhm.
another, I think, a mixture of foot traffic, people just seeing it and being like, huh, interesting, I want to check that place out, or people who specifically search craft beer near them. And that's probably the lion's share of people beyond just when we do events like the music event we do or food pop-ups. Sometimes they'll bring in people who are like, oh, I had no idea this place was here, but I know the person who's doing the pop-up and I actually live pretty close by, and then they'll kind of get ushered into our little, you know, community of weirdos.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned two really useful pieces of information there, where even though like you haven't paid for advertising, one, you picked a location in a strategic manner, and that
Yes.
location is very convenient. It's very close to a lot of the major areas in Tokyo, right by Shinjuku and all that. So it is pretty easy to get to, and that is another reason why I like to go there when I do like these. I wouldn't go so far as to call my thing an event, but a little get together. And
Yeah.
it's easy for people to get to. It's also like the kind of place where like people live, right? So like as
Right.
opposed to like the middle of Shinjuku, which is like stores and office, and that kind of stuff, right? So it's kind of like people are coming back there. And it's just easy to get to. And I guess you found that it wasn't already overly saturated with like, craft beer bars and all that. So, but
Yeah,
then you also mentioned like the events where you're connecting with other people and then they bring in their people.
yeah,
And that's just like organic marketing right there.
yeah, yeah. So that's it.
Hmm.
Yeah, no paid ad campaigns or no putting flyers in people's mailboxes. None of that. It's all just like Instagram, and people finding us however they find us. It's
Yeah, yeah. Well, it seems like it's going okay. Can you tell us more about those events that you mentioned? Like what, for example, what's that like pop-up food event?
Yeah. So the last event we did, it was actually probably our busiest event ever. There were times where I was like, are we just going to be so crammed in here that we're just going to turn into like human liquid? Like, it's like a crowded Tokyo train where
Yeah,
people are really like squeezed up against each other, and
yeah.
people just kept coming. And there was a time where I was like, oh my God, we don't have any glasses. What are we going to do? But fortunately, that was a double event, so that's part of why it was so crazy.
Uh-huh.
Um, we have friends. The name of their company is Temple Market Bathhouse, and two, really all of them helped us create our experimental music event that we've been doing every month since
Mhm.
around the time we opened, called Badhead, which is like a weirdo electronic. The only rules are no laptops or iPads, and beyond that, you'll have anything from guitar players to people making their own weird custom music devices and playing those. But those people, the Temple Market Bathhouse people, are importing. So one of them is from Hong Kong originally, and he's importing craft non-alcoholic soda that's made in Hong Kong. So they make a really nice tonic water. Tonic water for all the big G&T heads out there, people who love gin and tonic. Tonic water in Japan is a little bit different than you might find in other parts of the world because it's quinine, the ingredient that basically makes tonic water, gives it the signature flavor, is very heavily regulated here.
Hmm.
So they're bringing in this tonic water that doesn't use quinine but has similar qualities to a tonic water that would use that ingredient. And then just other interesting, like a spicy ginger soda and things. Um, so that event was half that soda is called mezzanine makers. And so it was half for that soda and the Temple Market Bathhouse people. Alvin is the name of the guy from Hong Kong who kind of organized this event. He was making special cocktails where he was dipping the rim of the glass in hot sauce and salt and then making a nice spicy cocktail out of the sodas. And then the second half of the event was our friend who used to run a bar in Oyamadai called Chalice, which in Spanish means beers, basically. So it was a craft beer bar and restaurant where he made kind of Mexican street food, tacos, burritos, whatnot. And now he's moving into more focusing on the food part. And so he's kind of between locations and testing out a concept for a restaurant. And his project is called Barrio Burritos.
Hmm.
So it was a good mix of these spicy cocktails from the soda people and nice burritos from the burrito guy. And so both of those things happening at the same time. And um, so food pop-ups have been sort of a recent thing. I don't think we were doing any when I first came on, when we
Hmm.
first opened. So now we're to the point where we might do 1 to 3 of those in a month, usually on a weekend. So we've had people making hot dogs. So there's a place called Sunny Hop in Higashikitazawa, which is not very far from our bar.
Hmm.
And they're super great guys. So they did an event, a DJ event, and they made their homemade hot dogs. They make the sausage themselves and use really nice bread and homemade condiments and things. And that was a really great it. That one was great because they're connected to the breakdancing scene in Japan.
I
And so
love
the
this.
audience was, yeah, the audience was very different in a good way to where it wasn't just the same people who always come to our
It's
events. It
it's
was a lot
breakdancing
of
sausage
these,
lovers.
yeah, yeah, Which who doesn't want those kinds of people hanging
I'm
out in your
down.
bar? It was
I'm down for
fantastic.
both. Yeah.
Yeah. And um, this month, March 15th, if anybody's in Tokyo listening, we're doing a pop-up with our friend Eric, who's from the Philippines, and he's working on creating his own restaurant. So he'll be doing a Filipino food pop-up. So it's nice to share our space with these people who are doing cool things and sharing our groups of friends and community. And that's kind of what this whole scene is all about, I think.
Yeah, and I mean you just stated it right now, but that brings in new people that normally would not have gone to see you, and
Yeah,
then hopefully that then results in like, oh yeah, I like that place. I'll go back again, right? And I'll go get a beer at that place again.
yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
and you do get people who only come to the events, and that's
Hmm.
okay too. But some of them you'll find trickling back in on normal nights and then
Hmm.
just building to that base of people who keep the whole thing going, right?
Yeah, yeah, that is wonderful to hear, and I it's refreshing to hear just like such an organic approach to building a business, and like it sounds like it's been going pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, knock on wood, I don't want
Hmm.
to jinx it, but
Hmm.
this year so this is our third year. In our first year, I think we started pretty strong just because of support of our existing network and friends and former coworkers and things. And then last year, I was like, we were holding steady, but I was starting to get a little nervous. Like, okay, this could go one of two directions, up or down. So where are we going to go next?
Hmm.
And I think doing these food pop-ups and other events like that have kind of built a sturdy foundation where this year we're up maybe like 20% versus the same time last year, which is
That's
great. And
awesome.
if we can maintain that for a year, it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, that's great to hear. As a friend, I'm happy for you, but it's just good to know that small businesses can still survive these days, right?
Mm,
Because especially in the US, it's getting harder and harder. But in Japan,
yeah,
like for example, liquor licenses, rent, and all that tends
right.
to be more affordable relative to how it is in the US. So that
Yeah.
that makes it more possible to do something like that.
Yeah. And I think so. Our space, by
Hmm.
Tokyo standards for a craft beer bar, it's like upper medium size. There's many, many, many craft beer bars that are much smaller than our space,
Hmm.
and several that are quite a bit bigger. But in the US, you barely ever see bars as small as ours.
Hmm.
And that's part of why Tokyo can sustain all these tiny bars is just spaces are smaller. There's more people wherever you put your bar, there's millions of people within walking distance
Yeah.
from it, most likely. Um, so the in that way, Tokyo is I agree with your sentiment there. I think it's easier in a lot of ways, both cost and just it can be realistic to have a tiny bar, and that bar can actually exist and thrive, and people can live off of running a tiny bar.
Yeah, just for
Which,
example,
yeah,
like I hear stories. I don't run a bar or anything, but for example, like here in Hawaii, like I've heard ridiculous stories of like $100,000 for like a liquor license or whatever. So
yeah,
depending on
oh
like
yeah,
the region, it can change severely. Like depending on where you are in the U.S., the rates are different. But it's easily there are places like that. But for example, in Japan, we did talk about this a little bit the first time you were here. But
yeah,
like, what is it like? A liquor license, it's relatively easy. It's actually very easy to get, right? It was
yeah,
only like a
yeah.
1 day like seminar kind of thing, right?
Right. It was
Yeah,
1,500 yen each,
yeah,
and basically the I guess the difficult part, which my wife did, was you have to present a business plan that doesn't just look like BS, right? You have
right.
to present a reasonable business plan and get approved just to exist as a business. That's probably the tricky part, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, we spent less on the total build out for our bar than if we were in a city where you have to bid on a liquor license. We might have spent more just on that piece of paper saying that we can serve alcohol.
Right. And that is one of the big aside from rent and other expenses, but like that is maybe one of the biggest prohibitive factors to doing something like that. A small business in the US, a small bar, uh and that like you were kind of mentioning, like you can have a small super niche thing that's like I don't know, 90s visual K 5 seat
Yeah. Oh
bar
yeah.
on
Oh yeah.
on the fifth floor of this
Yeah.
rundown building, and that can still
Yeah.
be enough for at least one person to live off.
Yeah. I love that bar. I know the one you're talking about.
I haven't been to one, but I'm sure it exists somewhere.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
dozens, I'm sure.
yeah, exactly. It's not just one. There's probably like 10 in Shinjuku alone. Uh,
Well, I know there is a bar totally themed around the J-rock band Bees,
yeah.
B apostrophe Z,
Uh-huh.
that some customers were talking about. They're like big Bees fans.
Hmm.
And there's a bar that is, it's not Visual K, but it's like a 5 or 10 seat bar where there's just Bees goods all around you and they listen to Bees all the time and
Yeah.
they talk about Bees and that that's
And then
enough to
one
keep
guy
that bar
shows up in a
going.
beekeeper outfit. He goes like, "What?"
With my little like smoker thing and
Yeah, yeah. I
smoke them
thought
all
we
out.
were. Oh, sorry, guys. Yeah,
Oh, we're pro bees. Wrong bar.
yeah. But that is one of the. I mean, Japan in general is like that. You know, like Osaka and especially the big cities. There's like these niche little. Like I went to a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure bar in Sapporo one time, and it was
Yeah,
like maybe 8 seats, and yeah, like that is one of the wonderful things about Japan where you can have that super niche kind of thing and it can actually be enough for a person to live off of. Maybe they're not going to get rich off of that, but you know, it is still fun and a wonderful thing for people that are into that kind of thing. That's their little community, right?
right. Yeah.
So I want to ask you then about like these 3 years of running this business. We've seen a lot of changes. For example, the yen has just like gone down the toilet. You know, like
Mm,
it's been painful for anybody earning yen. You know, in things like inflation have also been a big factor. Uh, as someone running a business that is dealing with like you know food and drinks and this kind of stuff, like what has it been like for you and you know how have you seen it change over the past 3 years?
yeah. Well, I think if you're living in Japan and buying Japanese things, really it has things haven't gotten as noticeably more expensive as I would think even they have in the US for certain things.
Hmm.
The yen is low against the dollar, yes, but if I'm not, there are certain like I like cool little synthesizers and electronics and gadgets and whatnot. And sometimes I'll see one that's made in the US or Europe and be like, oh yeah, no, I can't afford that because it's, 1.6 times more here feels that much more expensive to me than if I were earning dollars.
Right.
Um, so I think that's part of why the yen is low is so the Japanese government during times like this, they want to give out cheap loans so people can buy houses. They want to give, like our business, we got a very, very low interest loan just to help us when we started out at the beginning
Hmm.
have a little bit more liquidity, as it were, or like a war chest or whatever you want to call it, some funds just to keep us afloat for those first several months where we weren't sure how things were going to go at very, very low interest rate, which that does not exist in the US for
Hmm.
a business like ours. So it's just impossible to find what we found. Um, so that's part of why the yen is low. So it kind of cuts both ways. It's low because you have these government programs which are giving out cheap or basically free money. I mean, you have to pay it back, but um, that's not good for a currency, but it might be good for the people living in that society, right?
Hmm.
So that's
Sure.
the kind of the first part. I don't think it's if you're here and you're buying things in Japan, like somebody was just complaining the tuna mayo onigiri went up by like 5 yen or something.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, "Oh, I can't believe it. Things are getting out of hand." And it's like, well, if that's the worst that we're going through right now, it's really not that bad. It's not like it doubled in price.
Right.
It was like 5 or 10 yen, which, yeah, so we are feeling some inflation. But where it does affect us is foreign beers, of course. You'll go to some bars if they have a very highly desirable, like let's just say Other Half, which is a brewery from Brooklyn. And maybe it's a very desirable, rare variety of an Other Half beer. You might pay the equivalent of like 3,000 yen for a pint.
Wow.
a lot of times what they'll do with those, if it's a alcohol beer, they just won't serve it in a pint. They'll serve it in smaller sizes. But
Hmm.
if you were to calculate it out and do the math, um, it would be about that much per pint. So foreign beers are definitely getting more expensive, and our tap list has definitely leaned more toward Japanese beers over the past couple of years than when we
Hmm.
first started. And luckily, there's all kinds of breweries popping up seemingly every day in Japan, and a lot of them are getting really good. So, leaning onto the Japanese producers helps, and it's good that we have a pool of good brewers to choose from. And even though, so I was talking to somebody who was a brewer in Portland, Oregon. In Portland, Oregon, the tax for the producers of the beer is something like 10 cents per keg. Like it's almost nothing.
Hmm.
And in Japan, I was talking to brewers, and the tax here is on the producer side, so the brewer side, something like 200 yen per pint.
Oh,
So
wow.
taxes are way higher on the beer, but because of the currency value differential, um, Japanese beers are still by and large cheaper than foreign beers, both
Hmm.
with, shipping costs and the exchange rate and all of those things. Um, so it's kind of, in a way, leveled the playing field for Japanese brewers
Hmm.
because foreign beers are that much more expensive, and craft brewers in Japan are taxed very
Hmm.
heavily. So now there's even the really kind of hard to find, pricey breweries, like let's say Inkhorn, they're based in Mejiro, and that limits how much they can produce, but they're making really good beer. So, supply and demand means that their beers are a little more expensive and harder to come by. But now, if their competition is a really great IPA from Australia or the US or wherever, initially the American kegs may have been a little bit cheaper, but now they're closer to the same price. So
Hmm.
I think there may actually be some benefits to, in my industry, people who are producing craft beer in Japan, where it doesn't look ungodly expensive anymore because American beer looks even more ungodly expensive in most cases.
Interesting. Okay. See, I had no idea about that. So that was very interesting. Okay, so I don't drink alcohol, but I'm sure that at
Yeah.
least at least one person listening to this might. So
Yeah.
so for that person, do you have any I'm sure there's more than one person, but anyway,
Yeah.
do you have any particular favorites in terms of Japanese craft beer? It can
Oh,
be
yeah.
something that you serve. For example, come to Pintology where
Yeah.
you can get this beer. But just any suggestions for people that are into that kind of thing.
Well, on that note, the beers we serve, they're always rotating, and it just
Hmm.
kind of depends on what the brewers are making and what's available.
Hmm.
So if you come and you don't like the tap list, come give us another shot, and hopefully we have more beers that suit your preference. That because it's always changing.
Hmm.
Um, but some recent favorites, there's a brewery called Fermentation, based out of Shiga, and they're three young brewers in like their late 20s, early 30s, who used to work for Kyoto Brewery in Kyoto, Hopkotan in Hokkaido, and Nara Brewery in Nara. And they just recently started their own operation. And for how new they are, they just opened last year. I've been really impressed with all of their beers that we've had on tap. And so they're a really interesting one to watch.
Hmm.
And all three of those breweries who they came from, they're more established and they've been around longer, but y they make really great stuff too. So Kyoto, Nara, and Hapkotan. And uh, of course, talking about Japanese craft beer, everybody's going to mention Vertere from Okutama. And
Hmm.
we made a video about Okutama, but
Yeah.
I didn't go to Vertere. I was too busy. But
Yeah.
they make great beers too, especially if you're into like hazy IPAs and IPAs. And I mean, there's so many now. I already mentioned Inkhorn, so I won't give them another plug. Um, I mean, there's so much out there. I think if you're interested in beer and you're planning to come visit, You'll have a lot of interesting things to try. I'm blanking now. Maybe
That's
that's
all right.
enough.
Well, no, that is plenty. And I think that if anybody is going to, especially the Tokyo area, and they do want to know more about beer and try out some beer, they should go see you. You might be there serving them the beer, and you can give them all the other
Yeah.
recommendations you might have. Uh, so I do want to ask you about another project that it seems you have coming, but let's just give everybody just one more time the information for Pintology, just so that they have it in their minds. And where is it? How do you get to it?
Yeah, it's in Sasazuka,
Mhm,
which is on the KO line or the KO new line.
mhm.
The KO line's a little bit confusing, but either one of them will get you there. On the KO new line, it's the last stop
Okay.
from Shinjuku, and on the KO line, it's the first stop.
And
Um, so either one
Instagram.
will get you there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, or you
Uh,
can walk from Shimokitazawa. It's about 15-minute walk. Our bar is technically on Kamakura Dori. If any big Shimokita heads out there who know what I'm talking about,
yeah.
it's a road that cuts straight from the rear exit of the Keio Inokashira line in Shimokita and comes almost straight to Sasazuka Station, and we're on that road.
Awesome. It
And
like
then
a
Instagram is at Pintology Tokyo. So
yeah.
pint like a beer, pint, Pint, ology like mixology or Scientology or whatever ology you want to go for,
Yeah.
Pintology Tokyo.
Yeah. It's very easy to get to, and you just look it up. Put it in Google Maps. You'll get there, no problem. I'm a blind guy, and I found it okay, so I'll put it that way. Um,
That's a ringing endorsement.
yes, it is.
But
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
you've walked across most of the country of Japan, so I think
Yeah. Well, I've walked through areas that were much harder to walk through than that area.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
I
let's
think you're a
just keep.
special case.
Yeah, I am. Maybe I'm not the best endorser in that regard. Um, okay, so let's just tease something that you're working on, because I think I might have either you or your partner that you're working on this, back on the show. But I do just want to
Yeah.
let people know, like in case they are interested, to keep an eye out for this. So, what can you tease us? Can you tell us what you've got in the works?
Yeah. So my good friend Ian Lynham just published a book about the history of Japanese graphic design from 1875 to 1975 called Fracture. And it's a beautiful book. If you can find it out there, definitely grab it. And he spent about 15 years researching this topic. He's a working graphic designer and a graphic design full professor at Temple University, Japan, where he created arguably the first English language Japanese design history college course. And I think there's several out there now, and maybe some were bubbling up kind of simultaneously, but if not the first, one of the first courses in that topic. So he's very knowledgeable, um, full of insights and experience and knowledge relevant to that topic. So when he was publishing that book, I was because I used to work in video related things. I was like, I think this could be an interesting topic for a video series. And initially we were like, YouTube, or where do we want to put this? And it looks like now what we're going to do is self-release it on our own platform. And for a single one-time fee, you get access to the whole series forever, or at least as long as it's up and the
Hmm.
servers are still functional, right?
Hmm.
So it's going through a lot of the same topics in his book, but of course, in a visual medium of video, we can kind of think of it as Pee-wee's Playhouse, but about graphic design, about
Japanese
Japanese
graphic
design.
design. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
this sounds super
So there's
interesting.
little characters coming in and out, and we'll have some segments shot. It's not just him doing a Zoom call for 20 hours. He'll go out and about in the world and show us things
Oh, I love
relevant
this.
to the topic within Japan
Hmm.
and show actual examples of. He has an extensive collection of books and magazines and posters and kimono and fabric and all those things relevant to the topic of design. So he'll get to show you some of that, the real things that he's talking about. And so, yeah, we've shot about 2 episodes out of 16 total.
Hmm.
So it'll take us about 2 months just to finish shooting and then editing it all together and getting it out there. Realistically, maybe late summer or autumn, but it's coming and it's going to be super fun. Hopefully
Yeah.
relevant to even if you're not a designer or interested in design, there's pieces of Japanese history in there, kind of culturally, why are certain things the way that they are. I know I've talked to a lot of people who are trying to start businesses. Maybe they're coming from the US or abroad from somewhere else. And the Japanese market can be kind of tricky to crack or
Hmm.
figure out how to, market your products or convince the Japanese public to be interested in what you're doing. And if you're coming from that perspective, it also has a lot of information that I think can give you certain insights because graphic design has a close relationship with advertising and marketing as well, and just
Hmm.
mass communication in general. So it can give you some insights in that area. Or if you just like Japan and Japanese craft and design, there's going to be a lot about that in there.
Yeah, yeah. Or like
So,
things like how the language influences the design and like
oh yeah,
there's
definitely.
so much like I love this kind of topic. I worked at a company that published a newspaper, like a Japanese language newspaper, and I got to see how the designs were made and all that. And it is a really interesting thing. And it's one of those things that like often you're left wondering like this is such a like you can immediately identify like this is a Japanese design, but what are the elements that make me think this, right? Why
Yeah,
is it like this? And I think that I haven't seen anything of what you're working on, but I suspect that some of those topics will be covered as well.
I think so. I
Mhm.
haven't actually, so I've gone through all of the material, but
Mhm.
it's it's a lot.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I can imagine.
so
Yeah,
as we shoot it, I feel like I'm kind of myself going to be understanding a lot of these things as we're shooting them. So
right, right, right. Well,
but it's been super great.
I definitely want to discuss this, once it's out or getting ready to come out. So, happy to have you guys on and we'll dig into
Yeah,
it. Yeah. So, of course, guys, if you're going to be in the Tokyo area, if you live there already, or if you're somewhere in Japan, just go check out Pintology. It's a fun place, and go drink some beer or whiskey or non-alcoholic. Whatever you're
yeah.
into, you can go check it out. Go say hi to Kyle and his wife, and I'll probably be back there in the fall as well. So maybe I'll announce something on social media if you guys want to come see me when I'm there.
Can't wait.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Kyle. It's been great to
Always
catch
fun to
up.
have Tony.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Thank you. This has been great.